Has anyone been keeping a tally on how many booze soaps I've made for the channel so far? Because I'm betting it's a lot. And today is one more. But before I tell you what booze soap we're making, hello, I'm Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudzers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things. And today we are making another booze soapy thing, and specifically a beer soapy booze thing. And we're making the Octoberfest. Now, I know I should probably wait until the fall to do the Oktoberfest, but I'm out, and so I need to make some. And the reason why I need to make some is because the last time I showed you this soap, I didn't mention what it was. I did not tell you it was the Oktoberfest. I, just gave you the dumpster fire beer soap thing. Yeah, and because it was a dumpster fire and because we ended up turning those into felted soaps as well as the soaps for Soap and Clay Kidlet number 2's hair, I am out of Oktoberfest, and so I need to make them. Now, one of the reasons I selected the Oktoberfest soap to use as the dumpster fire video is because the particular oil or the particular scent blend that I put into it, it always has problems. It gives me issues all the time. So I knew that would be a really good one to throw the batch. And I want to show you, how it's made sort of right today. And unfortunately, you still do work with things like some acceleration and some separation and some ricing, but I want to show you how you can use specifically ricing to sort of amplify your soap designs if you know that you have like a scent that you absolutely love, but it's a bit temperamental. So let's go check it out. Hooray, it's Oktoberfest Day in August. Whatever, I have to get my line ready for, Oktoberfest. Now, all good beer soaps start out, as you'd expect, with beer. This particular beer is a beer from a Sudzer, actually. He makes Marzens, which is really kind of cool. And we were talking about it over a class one day, and he mentioned that he made Marzens. Now, I guess that's like technically the type of beer that, like the lager that that an Oktoberfest is, right? And I guess that means that it is made in March, which is what Marzen is German for, I guess. And then, it like ages or whatever over the summer. So it's ready for, a fall beer in October. And so, yeah, it's a very malty, very nutty type of beer, very dark beer. And for this particular recipe, I use 100% of the water that I would normally put in with the lye solution. I substitute that out for beer. So yeah, there's the thing. And this particular water percentage is 2.2 times the amount of lye. So that's what it is for that. And it's all, at trace, actually. It's not even emulsification, it's past. And it's hard to find it with beer. It's hard to find it with beer because it's discolored right away. It's all thing. And now I am going to be removing a portion for the white that will go on top, like the head of the beer, if you're pouring it into a glass, into a pint, right? And then the rest is going to be colored a really beautiful yellow using micas. And it's all great. So far, so good. Everything is working out reasonably well. And
that's awesome because, you know, we hate it when soap doesn't work out. But as soon as I mix in the colorant, I'm going to be moving on to the scent blend. Now this particular scent blend is a grapefruit with some caramel tones as well. I have some like caramel in there, and I love this blend. It is a delightful smelling soap when it's all said and done. These scents really work very well together. It survives saponification, really beautiful. The caramel sort of grounds the grapefruit, which is very odd, but it does the thing, and it's a lovely, lovely scent, but it gives me nothing but problems. And you remember when I did the bad batch, right? The dumpster fire video of beer soaps, and I showed you ricing and separation and seizing and acceleration and all the things, right? Showed you all of those things. This was the soap that I was working with, and I specifically chose this soap for that reason, because I knew if I was going to throw a batch, this is the best soap to throw a batch with, because as you can see, everything is so beautiful right now. It looks so good, but it's all going to change as soon as I put this scent blend in. Everything is going to go pear-shaped. And again, things can go pear-shaped, and if you love the scent, learn to work with it within your designs. Like if you still want to use the scent, know what it's going to do, expect that it's going to do that, and make your designs, you know, fit with the problems of your, you know, your misbehaving, you know, soap batter, really. Now this is getting mixed up and it is ready to get poured into the mold. That is the next step for the yellow base, and you know, then we're gonna do the thing with the white and get that mixed in so I can show you why that one goes gross too after we pour the yellow. Okay, now see how thick it is already getting going in there? Like we've got ricing, it got super thick, and that, my friends, is the scent blend. It's so sad that it does this, but you can definitely see some very real ricing going on in there. Now ricing occurs when you have the fragrance itself, the scent blend, whatever it is that you're using. It is binding essentially to the sort of hard oils that's in the batch and making them, you know, super firm, because you're working with fluid, you know, oils, which means you've melted down your oils and, you know, done the things. And that is great. But when you have ricing, it's essentially binding to those, you know, thicker, heavy, solid oils and re-solidifying them. And that's sad, and it's gross, and it's whatever. And you know, I tried to do I showed you in the dumpster fire beer soap video, the stick blending out, because that's what you're told to do. And yeah, it didn't stick blend out anything out, and it just made the batter, you know, thicker. But that's okay, because I have never had a soap rice that, you know, showed up in the end result. Like I didn't see that in the finished product. There was no signs that it had riced. So during saponification, it sort of works itself out, because again, it's heating itself up inside the mold as we are, you know, as it's going through saponification essentially. And also I C-pop my stuff, so everything goes into, you know, the oven, further heating it up, and that will essentially loosen up those hard sort of oil pockets for your solid oils, and it ends up being, you know, a reasonably smooth bar. But look at the white. Like, that is so clumpy. It is so gross. Now, this particular scent blend, it doesn't discolor, so I can totally use it in the white, which is awesome. And once I realized, the first time I ever made this soap, years and years ago, I saw that this happened, and I kind of freaked out. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I need to find another blend for the Octoberfest. And ultimately, I loved this blend so much that I just couldn't justify taking it out of the line because it smells so good. And so I decided that I would use all of this to my advantage. And this really craggy, thick, ricey, grainy looking white batter actually helps me create this sort of like peaks and cragginess and, you know, texture of like a foam, you know, top of the, you know, like head of a pint of beer, really. And so once I accepted that it does this, I found ways to work with it and, you know, use it within my design. And it takes a little bit more time than I would necessarily like, because in reality, this is a very simple bar to pour. It's one base color and just like, you know, like a half an inch top of the white. There's not a lot going on in it. So it should be, you know, a 7-minute pour when it's all said and done. But because it's so thick, because I have to really slam everything down and smooth everything out so all the bars are even across the top, which is a very important thing, by the way. Make sure that your soap batter is always even on the top. Otherwise, you know, the soaps in the middle or the soaps on the left will be taller than the soaps on the right, whatever. But yeah, so it all works out to do the kind of textured top thing. And then I stick this guy in the oven for sea-popping overnight, and we will then look at it tomorrow after saponification has been completed and see if it looks nearly as disgusting as it looks, you know, right now. Okay, so it is cut day, and as you can see, kind of a rough texture still, but all in all, not bad. Definitely went through gel. And look at that. That's actually a beautiful bar of beer soap. Most beer soaps are going to be sort of rough textured kind of by nature, because you're dealing with extra sugar alcohols in there, and that can play tricks. And all of my bars have a rough texture to them because of the kaolin clay that I put in. I mean, unless I disperse the kaolin clay in water because I specifically don't want the sort of rough texture, but I actually like the rough texture in my bars, and so I do a lot of that. But with these soaps, since they are still very, very soft, and we do have some pockets of places where the soap didn't quite, you know, there was a hole, essentially. The soap was very thick when we poured it in, and so there's little holes on the sides. I am just taking the extra soap from the end piece and just using it to sort of spackle in the, just right there, just do the thing, just spackle into the holes, and you know, everything looks great when it's all said and done. It's one of the reasons why I cut my soaps so quickly, because, I mean, the biggest reason I cut my soaps quickly is because I always want to see what's inside. And usually I always need the mold right away. And so if I'm going to pull it out of the mold, I might as well cut it. But also because you can fix any sort of, you know, imperfections that you have in the bar really easily by just, again, using the end piece as sort of, you know, some putty and fixing all the holes and doing all the things. And apparently I'm doing that off camera right now because it's taking me a long time to come back. Oh yeah, there it is. Yep. Yeah, it's all a thing. But yeah, no, it's, again, this scent blend is just such an extraordinarily good one that I really don't care that it does the weird ricing or whatever. And as you can see, there's no graininess going on in that soap. You look at the face of that soap and it looks great. You can see the pieces of the kaolin for sure, but that's the kaolin clay. That's not ricing. And it doesn't look nearly as disgusting as, you know, it did when we were pouring it. So just when you find a batch that's ricing or whatever, just change your course as quickly as you can, because you still want to get into the mold as fast as you can. You might have to change your design because you're not going to get pretty swirls out of it or whatever, but don't lose your mind and assume that it's a ruined, you know, bar of soap as a result. Like that's silly, because it's super not. Because again, after saponification, especially if you're sea-popping, especially if you're forcing through gel, everything smooths out during saponification and it all ends up looking quite lovely. And so, you know, just keep that in mind. And to the whole, is ricing dangerous? Like, does it make a dangerous bar of soap to use? No, it does not. It's a completely a cosmetic thing. Like so many problems, you know, quote unquote problems in soap making. I have seen so many people post soaps that, I mean, I've seen some people post pretty awful soaps too, but you know, they'll post soaps that are perfectly fine and they're just devastated. Like, oh, my soap is ruined. Now I have to turn it into laundry soap. This particular soap is super fatted at like 8%. So that would be a terrible laundry soap. Way too much extra oil in that. You don't want that in your soap or in your clothing. 2, there is no reason to turn this into laundry soap. It is a lovely batch of soap. The ricing does not affect the performance. It does not affect the safety of the bar. it's just a cosmetic thing. And as you can see, it's not a bad cosmetic thing. It doesn't, you know, I mean, I'm obviously putting more work into having to clean up these bars after cut than I normally have to do, just because it was so thick when I poured, but it's not a dangerous thing. It's a completely lovely bar of soap to make, or bar of soap to use, and the lather is so good, and the bubbles, oh, it's such a delightful soap that I don't want to change it. So I continue to work with ricing and use it to my advantage in my soap making. And that's day 123, the Octoberfest.
And there it is, the Octoberfest. And I really, really love this scent blend. You have the grapefruit, you have the beer scent going on and all of that. There's a little bit of nutty notes with all of that. Because of this blend, I end up with, you know, problems with my soap. And so I have learned to use a temperamental, you know, scent to my advantage. So I kind of like using the white part that I know is going to rice, because it always does, to sort of add some detail and some interest to the top of the bar and make it look more craggy, like, you know, beer foam, like the foam of a, yeah. And so that's, you know, something you can play with within your recipes. Let that be a lesson that just because a soap fragrance might not, you know, behave the best, that doesn't mean you should throw it out. You can definitely play with it in your designs and still make it something awesome. And you should definitely look into doing that if it's a scent that you absolutely love. Now, for this soap, if you're interested in the Octoberfest or any of the other beer soaps we have, you can totally find them on the website at soapandclay.com. If you are interested in following me on social media, I'm there, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, yes. If you are interested in more soapy fun and the weirdness that comes along with, you know, all of the chemistry behind soap and all that jazz, subscribe to the channel. We are doing this every single day, and I'd like you to be a part of it. For those of you who are a part of it and you were here today for all of this, thank you so much. I super appreciate it. And that does it for me today, and I will see you tomorrow for another round of fun. Bye.